Rebrand! Ding! Hello, beloved consumers. I'm Ashley Burch.
Oh, and I'm Mort Burke.
I kind of sounded kind of confused, like maybe you forgot. I'm Mort Burke. And welcome to Rebrand, a comedy podcast where we inject new life into tired old brands, whether they be snack food celebrities or religious institutions. And we have a guest.
I realize that when I introduce guests, I'm so used to hosting stand-up shows that I do it as though I'm expecting people to applaud at home. I'm going to lean into that.
Yeah, they are.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're here tonight to see the incredibly talented, and I'll say it, handsome. He's a stand-up comedian in Los Angeles who's so fucking hilarious. He performs all over. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Everett Roberts.
Yeah.
Everyone's screaming.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here. Let's cut the shit and get down to brass tacks.
Well, Mort turned around his baseball cap right when you said that. He went into sport mode.
It's a sign that men are getting serious. I mean, it's just, you see it everywhere. Baseball, mechanics, pornography. When the man turns his hat around.
I forgot, you watch almost all baseball hat pornography, is that correct?
That's true.
I do wide brim hat pornography, just different hats, sombreros, as long as someone's wearing a large hat.
Have you ever experimented with pith helmet? Oh, I gotta tell you, if you can find the vintage stuff, like from the 1820s.
I like a little spelunking helmet with like a little flashlight in the front.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
Yeah, I want no lights except for that light. So it's a little bit like a horror movie vibe as well.
Yeah, and like maybe a grappling hook.
So Everett brought am I making that up? Didn't you bring the topic for rebranding today?
I did. It's a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I think men in general are due for a rebrand.
I'd say long overdue.
Yeah, long overdue. Let's talk about what the current brand of men is.
Men are, well, we're in a weird place. Men are right now having a rebrand in this moment.
They are.
One which I'm not involved with. A lot of other men are spearheading this rebrand, and it's the rebrand maybe we deserve, but not the one we need in this American moment. And I have thoughts on how to turn this franchise around.
Yeah, I think the current rebrand is the current brand, which is a rebrand. I love how meta and convoluted this gets. I think men are lost and lonely, and they've got no one else to turn to except for 4 very sick podcasters.
Yeah.
And 2 lumpy men who now run the country.
Yeah, that's right.
They are ascendant, unfortunately, and I can only make so many of them bust at one time. Let me rewind. There's a concept here I've got to unpack. My resolution for 25 was I was going to stop making Trump voters bust. It keeps happening despite my better judgment.
You're like, I'm not going to make this one bust. And then you black out and find yourself
just covered in essence.
I should not have said blood.
Sorry. Yeah, that's that one time I went home with Brett Kavanaugh. You know? Nobody's safe on the pod today.
Taking down all the sacred cows.
Yeah. God, Brett Kavanaugh, what a fucking sociopath. Can I swear?
Yeah.
Can I say Brett Kavanaugh?
No, actually you can't. We're going to bleep that.
Sorry. I find that big manly men, they're having a moment right now, but it's an 80s sort of manliness that's like yearning for a time when whites could drop an N-bomb and everybody wouldn't get all bent out of shape about it.
Absolutely.
Certainly an F-slur. That should be in fair play.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure we're going to start seeing it in government documents soon.
I cannot wait, okay, because I edit and write some of those documents. And if I can slip one in, you know...
You're going to take it back first.
I mean, you've seen me on stage. I've been trying hard.
You like to attack first on stage. How do the men respond when you attack them? Do they seem to kind of like it? Or they're like, ooh, what is the response like?
Depends on the man, obviously. But I mean, the reason I attack at these men is because comedy is just lousy with men who believe that it's super important to be an edgelord because people are too soft nowadays. And I am bound and determined somehow to dismantle each one of these people limb from limb. My unholy mission is... I ask them frequently, like, have you ever disarmed another man with softness? And nobody knows what to do with
it stuns them into frightened silence. Yeah.
It does actually. Yeah. Especially if I fixate on a single man, I can get some really deeply uncomfortable moments.
So maybe, I mean, it's almost like maybe we're rebranding. We said that once as a joke, and now I've started pronouncing rebranding like that. Yeah, rebranding.
It's like re-apostrophe brand. Real quick, can we go back into the busting a little bit?
I wish you would.
Do you find yourself attracted to these assholes? Because look, as a straight man, there are women who I'm attracted to, but I don't like. You know what I mean? Which is a very strange, confusing aspect of
but
generally male sexuality, although women have it as well.
Yeah, but you'd still want to make some dames bust that you don't care for.
There's a physical attractiveness, whereas their politics, their spirituality, every other aspect of them is reprehensible.
So here's the thing. I know several gay homosexuals who are Republicans, which is just kind of dumb in this day and age. Listen, I can can understand if you're an Eisenhower Republican, all right, we can talk.
Now, are these ones specifically Eisenhower Republicans?
They are not. These men that I've come into contact with, there's something about them where it's like, oh, not only are you an enormous bloated douche and you're a dinosaur, you believe that women are just sort of, I don't know, like NPCs in the Bang Bus expanded cinematic universe.
Which, enough with the Bang Bus expanded.
My God,
we
guys.
get it.
After the 6th one, it's like, God, we've done all the stories we can do.
It's no longer about character, I'll tell you that.
No, it's all remakes. But these men, I see them and I say, oh, nothing in you has ever been really endangered by anything other than maybe something else truly masculine. If you've been in a fist fight a bunch, if you've been to prison, whatever else, you get to be a big manly man and people don't fuck with you. But have you ever been tickled from the inside?
You mean that metaphorically and literally?
You sure?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's something to me that's like, I'm going to take you down. I'll give you an example. So there's an Air Force colonel I used to know, Trump, Republican, gay, homosexual.
Oh boy, that's a lot of words.
Possibly one of the worst people I've ever met in my possibly 20 to 40 years of life. I'm not telling you how many.
Yeah. I thought you were 11 when we met. So
And this guy, an actual fossil, wearing Reagan Republican drag, but loving all the worst parts of Trumpism because it was, he gets to be a man, he gets to bomb Libyan villages into dust in the Air Force. He was stationed in Italy, and so he got what he said was the best of civilization and the best of war. Harrowing conversation.
God. Yeah, that's horrifying.
And he had a big complex about he was always a top. Also, very small penis on him. Go figure.
Sure, of course.
Sometimes things are hacked for a reason. You know what I mean?
Sometimes they're just true.
Sometimes cliches are true.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have written it that way myself, but what can you do?
Right.
I wanted very badly to tar and feather him with my faggot brush,
I love when your metaphors are beautiful and frightening.
The language that I use with it is deeply, deeply homophobic. I don't know how else to conceive. I wanted to infect him with whatever sissy thing that I have.
That makes sense. You wanted to give him a little bit of what I will term femininity because he fucking needed it.
Right. His immediate first reaction to things, and I think this is true of men right now in this era, is the first thing they reach for is scorn when they encounter a new viewpoint.
Right, it's immediate cynicism.
Cynicism, it's scorn, it's derision, it's something where they're just like...
Which, so much of this has to do with a lack of imagination. You can't imagine that there might be more than two genders. You refuse to let yourself experiment with the idea that we're actually capable of being more than we were told we're able to be. Okay, maybe you have never experienced direct homophobia. You can't imagine that it exists. You've never experienced racism. You can't imagine that systemic racism exists.
I'm curious what you said to this man. How you accomplished the phrase you just said that I will not repeat.
Well, so I discovered by some means that he was present at the Capitol on January 6th.
Oh my God!
By some means, do you mean a little bit of rudimentary internet research? Or what are we talking?
Rudimentary internet sleuthing.
Yeah, just a little dabbling.
He was, like many men, a fortress. Kind of unassailable in a lot of ways because he just had that, no, I'm a big manly man. I've killed multiple people, probably, because he's bombed them from a distance. So I found it very difficult to actually find any sort of purchase on him. But I did, in fact, manage to find some purchase on him through a handy little report through the FBI. Which, of course, now means nothing because all of those a-holes got pardoned. Man is ascendant once again in the worst of all his impulses. But, and I would love another bite at the apple, I got to tell you.
I'm sort of wondering if maybe rather than trying to rebrand these men, inspired by you, I wonder if we should rebrand a response to them. I was driving today and I saw, as I frequently do in Los Angeles, a truck with a well-endowed anime lady on the back of it.
Sure, a busty cartoon.
And I sort of thought maybe it should be a tit for tat, pardon the pun, where I get a really beefy anime boy with a very, very large penis on my car.
I think that's fucking hilarious. His dick and balls should be larger than he is.
Maybe one suggestion, he's in a bikini top.
Oh, love that. Yes.
Yeah, so take it out of the heteronormative and put a little...
Yeah,
which I'm picturing the kind of stereotypical man we're talking about, and his reaction to that would be very similar to their reaction when you ask them if they've ever changed a man with softness. What it looks like is what Cody does if you pull out a dog treat, which is become very still and confused and excited.
I worry about that arms race because it is something that the edgelords love to indulge in. The spectacle
true.
is one thing that they just always want to get involved with.
I do really like the idea of rebranding how we respond to this, because I think it's absolutely true that this energy wants conflict. This energy wants to elicit rage because that's what it's experiencing. So I'm interested in rebranding our response.
You know, what's good for the goose is not always good for the gander. Sometimes, like, you know, for dames, they can have their one response. For me, you know, you can send in a different platoon to handle any given one.
Sure.
You know, the military metaphor falls apart here because I haven't watched Saving Private Ryan in a long time.
This is great because I've watched Everett in real time. He really does confront these guys with an incredible, powerful gayness. You really are dominating them with softness in a way.
Men fundamentally, especially right meow in this American moment, they treat the world as if they themselves will never ever be penetrated morally, metaphysically, ecumenically, whatever. I am inviolate. I get to do what I want. I have a penis. I pee where I want. I get to direct where I pee. A woman has to sit. What a bitch. This is... We all know this.
Let's imagine briefly that we're living in an incredible world where Everett is now president.
Yeah, in the dictatorship of my heart.
Yeah.
Which I found is a bad phrase to employ in a job interview. I would make it so that every male child has to spend a year living as a female, like a foreign exchange year.
I like foreign exchange too, because it's all about expansion of experience.
They spend a year as a foreign exchange as a dame, as a proper dame, kind of like a gender rumspringa.
Oh, sure.
At the end of that year, they go back to being a man, going back to being a boy, child, whatever. Maybe they decide to land somewhere in the middle, and it's all gravy.
I love this.
I think the men nowadays, everybody's primed at this moment to indulge first in rage or scorn or misogyny, chauvinism, whatever it is, because they see the big, strong men are making things happen. So all of a sudden, like, yeah, actually, that does make sense. We should kick all of the Mexicans out because, I don't know, the guy said it, so why not?
So what feels better than rage? What could we get people hooked on?
Oh, mushrooms.
We could just put psilocybin in the water.
Listen, I'm on board with that too. I've never been a psychedelics kind of gal, but I have had a few experiences psychedelically speaking. Like, oh, this is just pure delight. I have enough that the sensuality can find me.
Yeah, interesting. You already can experience the body high. You don't need the...
Exactly. I don't need the visuals so much as, you know, like the light show's lovely.
Sure.
My feeling about all this is that the thing about anger and rage is that it gets you high because you feel impenetrable. It makes you feel safe. If you're a person who doesn't feel safe, rage feels like the answer to that. I had this experience one time. This is just a true thing that happened. I was really angry one day, and I felt really good. And I was like, I'm going to see how long I can just be angry for. And the reality is it went like 3 days before it turned into this sort of like rich emptiness, you know?
Wow.
And it wasn't working anymore. And I'm talking 72 hours straight.
Did you look like Emperor Palpatine by the end of that?
Yeah, melting and sunburnt. Yeah, I was like... Yeah, so I do think that there is a shelf life to this shit. The unfortunate thing is that there's all these industries built to make you feel more afraid. And I can't believe the amount of people that accept the fucking racist propaganda around immigrants. It's unbelievable that still works.
Here's my very, very different tact I'm about to take.
Yeah, hit me.
Because you said it's a response to a lack of safety. We give every man a medieval set of armor. You love Rome so much. Here's a suit of armor, baby.
Clunky, you get a mace, you're trying to drive your like Toyota Corolla in it.
I gave up drinking over 13 years ago because I was tedious. I was a tedious, angry drunk. Like people.
Yeah, it's a vibe killer.
It is a vibe killer. Yeah. That is probably the worst part of it, is that there were vibes and I would just crash through them. I can't think of any other negatives, but
yeah.
You know, and you just feel like the anger response is like the first go-to thing in my holster. Yeah, I wouldn't want to hang out with me. I should probably fix that. So I just woke up and stopped drinking, you know, which everybody should try. I got to tell you, kids, you know, it's just, you got to want it, you know. The reason I bring this up is because what kept me from drinking in the, let's say, year, that first year, the shame of, remember, like, oh my God, that was so embarrassing. Like, I totally got the shit kicked out of me by a cab driver. So this cab driver called me a faggot while I was in the back of his cab because I was admittedly being gay in the back of his cab.
You're saying you see where he was coming from?
Yeah. What was I wearing? You know. And so I paid in cash because that was back in the day when we had cash. The gold standard. And I got out of the cab and I yelled at him and I kicked a dent in his door and I said, "Get out of the cab." And wouldn't you know it, He got out of the cab. All 18 feet of him got out of the cab.
No.
This man, he rearranged my face.
Fuck.
Oof.
And even worse is I tipped for it. Like I paid him.
Right, you paid in advance.
You
I
went
paid
over
in advance.
20%.
Shame. That comes back to shame. And so the shame of that memory was enough to be like, yeah, I don't want to keep repeating that. That shame, however, was not the only thing that kept me from drinking. It worked in the short term, but shame has a very short shelf life. It becomes radioactive. I was speaking with a man, a Trump voter, not long ago, who I simply cannot name. Don't ask. I shan't. I mustn't. I won't.
Seems like you really
I know,
want
it
to.
seems like you want me to ask.
I simply mustn't. Don't even think about it. Every single thing he brought up was a conspiracy. Every single topic of conversation was fluoride in water. I mean, just the moon landing. Every last conspiracy that you thought we'd put to rest all of a sudden was alive and well again. And he's like, I don't know, man. I'm just asking questions.
I would like to introduce to these men the concept of video games, mystery novels, LARP, escape rooms. There's a wonderful subgenre of video games that I love very much called detective games, where you get to solve a mystery. You get to be a detective.
Yeah.
It's lovely. And you get to do it in the comfort of your own home. You don't have to destroy and destabilize an entire country to do it. And you feel real smart at the end.
I will say, too, men love what culturally we consider to be like women stuff, like gossip, if it's dressed up in football jerseys. Like, what is fantasy football if not playing with Barbie dolls? So we need to make therapy tough. It should be American Gladiators. So the first level, you fight somebody with the joust, and then when you get knocked off, you have to go to see a therapist, and you get a point for telling them something you've never told someone before.
I love this.
Oh, that's good.
This is excellent. If you make it all the way to the end, the final boss round, where you swing across fire, whatever the fuck the American Gladiators do, and then the very end, you have to sit and have a 1-hour therapy session on live TV.
Yeah, totally.
And if you can get through that
Yep.
without storming out and throwing a tantrum, then you are the American Gladiator.
You get two things. You get a gold embronzed. That's two things. An embronzed, muscly arm, like a cast of Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Predator. And then you also get a new version of whatever stuffed animal you had in childhood.
Oh, I love that.
Both of those. Because those things can coexist. When RuPaul says paint with all the colors, it doesn't mean stop being a man. It means be a man.
And allow yourself to be more.
And experiment with things that we think only women do, because some of them are empowering and fun.
I got to tell you, so recently I had an experience where I got to be a man. A man broke into my house. He sure did. So 2 gal pals of mine were coming by to do some writing. And a man saw them walking to my apartment on the street.
No.
It was dark, probably 10 p.m. And he followed them on the street, followed them up the stairs, boot scooted his way after them. And then as they knocked on my door and I opened the door, he followed them directly inside on their heels. He didn't know I was there.
Oh my God.
He thought he was following 2 women home alone.
To a dark apartment that was otherwise empty.
By the way, there's ring camera footage of this from the apartment across the hall, and I've seen it. So what he's describing, I've seen live footage of.
And so my 2 gal pals, of course, they were having a full-fledged panic attack. I'm about to be attacked. Response. And they were just completely frozen. They knew he was there. They could feel how close he was on their heels coming up the stairs. I have to imagine they're like, okay, if we just get to Everett's apartment, we're safe.
Right.
And they got inside my apartment and he followed them in. And I was standing there as the door opens and I see friend 1, friend 2, and stranger, big tall man who I've never seen before in my life in a jersey of some sort, which I respect all walks of life, but do not come to my house wearing a jersey. Without even thinking, I immediately started yelling at this man, get out, get the fuck out of my apartment. But he wouldn't leave. I had to run up on this man and push him and get into a scuffle at my door and push him out of my apartment. And my 2 gals were still, of course, terrified and frightened, not moving. Something in me, in my lizard brain, was like, I'm the man. Oh, shit, I guess I gotta handle this.
I've seen the footage and I've heard the sounds that Everett was making. And I've heard the way that it's not that he transformed. He accessed a part of himself that was already there. The interesting thing to me about it is that you experienced the right-wing fantasy. Take in all these movies. These people are just dreaming that some ne'er-do-well is going to attack their family. And you actually, an out and proud man, actually did it. And there's footage of it. Yeah. And you make men bust all the time.
It occurred to me I could disarm him with softness, but that would have taken time. The girls were I didn't want them to have to see that. They were so frightened. And I mean, for what it's worth, I was very, very glad in retrospect that I was there. 1. 2, that I responded in the way I did, because, you know, it was a big thing to show up and show my two gal pals that I was going to protect them.
Yeah.
And the man recognized, I guess, maybe this is getting too meta, but recognized that I was another man there who was going to have something to say about him intruding upon my hearth. It's pretty much every woman I know's nightmare. It's my nightmare. I've had men follow me home who were not even remotely attractive. And it's always a fucking bummer.
Yeah, at least be a 7.
Yeah.
In gay world, it's very different. I gotta tell you, people, I've had a man follow me home and it's turned out lovely. It's different for dames. It just is.
It's different for dames, you gotta say.
Yeah, and the men, you know, the incels, the men on the internet, the Andrews Tate of the world.
I love that you say Andrews Tate so much. Like attorneys general. It's so delightful. I love it so much.
That is actually the fantasy. That is truly what they want.
And you had it, and they haven't.
Yeah.
They must boil them up.
Some men in particular, there is that, they used to call it gay chicken, right? And there was a point in my adolescence where suddenly they recognized this thing like, oh, I'm always going to lose a gay chicken if I play with Everett. They knew that. I didn't know that. I was terrified at that age that I was going to get beaten to a pulp. So, you know, I didn't ever enjoy the advantages of gay chicken per se. There is that desire, or there's the wish that they could express that level of physicality, call it, you know, physicality, intimacy.
Yeah.
And it just can't ever get expressed without violence. It can't ever be expressed except through struggle, which is why it's important to make Republicans bust. If I may confess, that conspiracy theorist that I was talking about earlier, I did make him bust.
Did he say Pizzagate when he ejaculated?
He did, actually. Yeah, that was the code.
Fucking Pizzagate.
I love that as a catchphrase. No, so I'd like to just say, during the course of our lovely evening together, he said 6 or 7 really fucking homophobic things to me, which, you know, as a woman of a certain age, I've heard it before, and I was able to explain to him, like, okay, so what you just said to me in front of my salad is that I can't be gay because I'm going to have a family, and, like, I'm going to have a career. And I said, I was like, okay, those two things can coexist.
Right.
Pete Buttigieg stole 2 kids, you know, or something. I read in the straight newspapers. And so, you know, he busts on my slutty tank top. I think we all know it was mesh. But we kissed at several points during this tryst. And I could tell that was the real earth-shattering event for him.
He was playing by pretty woman rules.
There was an apple cart and it had been upset.
Wow. The magic of the intimacy
was truly earth-shattering for me.
Wow.
I could tell something big had changed.
Do you think this is the first time you'd ever kissed a man?
I think so.
And this guy's how old?
He's probably, I don't know, early 30s.
Oy.
And it was, to be perfectly candid, it was a really tender, sweet, lovely moment. It
Sure.
was actually really, really good. And I could see that just was fundamentally not computing. Gay.exe has crashed. The screen of death. It didn't even end there. We go out for dinner, have a late dinner, come back. And as I was in his car, he was dropping me at home. And I go to get out of the car. And I open the door. And then I turn back to him. And he looks at me. And I take his chin, take 2 fingers under his chin. I pull him in again. And I kiss him again. And then I go, fag. And got out of the car.
How recent was this, and how many times has he called you since?
It was before the great fires. We've spoken since. We've run into each other out in town. We've seen each other at the grocery store. I mean, you know.
Okay, first of all, thank you for sharing that beautiful and hilarious experience. I feel like I just saw the best one-man show of my life. I was moved. And also, I think this idea of introducing tenderness into areas of competition and traditionally masculine experiences, I think is a great idea.
Yeah, like if you're going to have your fantasy football day, that's great, but you all have to take turns and be honest about what's going on with your lives for like 10 minutes each.
Every other MMA round, you have to like...
Give your friend a hug.
Yeah, give a hug that you mean. Maybe don't try to hit him on the back.
Like
That's
3
right.
deep inhales.
That's right.
It was, you know, Anais Nin wrote that in that there's something in America that fundamentally cannot leave cruelty aside. Or American culture in particular is just so wedded to cruelty as a demonstration of success or of its drive, of its ability to overcome.
Yeah, and I recognize aspects of myself that love to be cruel as well. Like, this is something that we all have. I
fucking love it.
And you're good at it. And, like, I'm pretty good at it. I can be. So I think the issue is to balance it with other aspects of ourselves and engage with it in ways that are not hurting other people.
I mean, I still want to hurt people. I'm not gonna lie to you, I still want to hurt people.
So with your experience with changing this man's heart, which is how I will forever see it, was there cruelty in that at all? There's a way to turn your cruelty into
a force for good.
But I think the key to it is the softness, right?
I'll paint you a picture.
Please.
He was standing in my kitchen, and it's dark out, mind you. Sure. He was standing with his back to me, the lights were off, and he was brooding in a way that a man broods.
Oh, of course.
You know, think Odysseus and Circe.
Yeah, right.
I always am.
And he's looking out the window, and I approach him. I don't come right up to him. I see him standing there, and I just look at him, and it's like, wow, he's really going through it. Like
Something's happening.
Like, if it had to be a sound, it would be the sound of large rocks colliding underwater, was the impression I had as what was going on.
Yeah, rusted gears starting to turn for the first time in decades.
Yeah,
something heavy had shifted, and something even heavier had slid into its place. Maybe. I could sense, it's like, oh, and this is maybe just my specific flavor of sociopathy that I have, and by that I mean borderline personality disorder. I could tell he was deeply, deeply vulnerable and frightened and unsure of himself. And so, I mean, in the car, the little moment in the car while I called him a fag after kissing, that struck me as impossibly funny in the moment. But it was also really cruel to do to him because he was still very like...
It was the most vulnerable moment he'd ever experienced.
And I called him a fag. You know, that was like probably one step forward, two steps back. You know?
That's the human race.
I will say to any men listening to this podcast who are not one of the men that we described, I would really implore you to use some of these, not tactics that makes it sound aggressive, ideas that we've presented the next time you're hanging out with your bros. You know, a hug that lasts longer than they're comfortable with. Genuinely asking them how they're doing. And when they say, I'm good, bro, you say, no, man, seriously, how are you? Like, what's going on? We've known each other for 15 years. I don't even know what your wife's name is. What's going on with you?
Ever really love that perfect description of male friendships?
Are they giving women names these days?
My experience, when I try to embrace aspects of myself that are feminine, I run into fear. I run into homophobia because I live in a homophobic society, right? So if we're men, isn't our whole thing like not letting fear stop us?
This is what I'm saying. Being vulnerable is the scariest thing you can possibly do. So you guys are being fucking pussies.
Yeah.
Man up and cry on your friend's shoulder.
So a lot of times I think early on in men's life, they make an attempt to do that somewhere clumsily, and it's met with a bad reaction. And so what we do then is shut down and say, I'll eat all this and let it turn into rectal cancer.
The thing that I probably want the most as a fundamental sea change in men these days is to understand that tenderness is its own reward in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like if you're always operating from I'm attacked, I'm in the minority, the fluoride's turning the frogs gay, that anger just only ever creates more anger. There's almost no way for that release outside of tenderness, outside of
I really thought you were going to say busting.
outside of being able to get through a sentence without a woman interrupting you, you know? I am so JK. That was now the worst thing I said. And for that, I'm deeply sorry. This has been canceled.
That's the new name of our podcast.
What I mean to say is just, the bill of goods you've been sold as a man is a bad bill of goods. It completely dispenses with any form of tenderness, with any form of softness, and wants you to believe that you have to be a cruel and exacting presence. And you can be, you just need to counterbalance it. I myself, it turns out I'm really good at being cruel to people, but I also happen to be delightful from time to time.
I've said this before, but I've watched Everett tell other comedians that they have no charisma. And that is such a profound indictment of a human being. It's the cruelest thing you can say to a person. And yeah, exactly. This idea that if you express femininity, then all of a sudden you are trapped as a person who is weak forever is ridiculous. Like, what's actually going to happen is you'll learn to experience love, which will make you feel better. And you'll also be stronger in other ways and maybe be able to shout a man out of your apartment.
I mean, there is relief on the other side. I think that truly is the thing that is not discussed. You know, people aren't in therapy because it fucking feels good. It's because there's relief on the other side. Like, the amount of pain I was in 10 years ago versus now, it's like, you can't measure it. I'm so much happier now going through my bullshit and working through my shit than I was when I was just raw dogging life.
Ooh, yeah.
This has been so great. I can't wait to see the Therapy American Gladiators.
The Rebrand, if we're looking for a slick concept that we're going to take to Shark Tank, it's Therapy Gladiators.
You get the people who watch MMA and the people who watch The Bachelorette. That's every person in America will watch this show. All the sharks are in. They're racing for that button. Do they have a button, or is that just...
I don't think they have a button.
They should get a button
I think they
on
just
that show.
make an offer.
But they really should have a button.
They should also be forced to wear little shark outfits, too. Like little fins.
Oh, yeah, with their heads poking out of the mouth.
Yeah.
A delightful addition of whimsy. Also was a good thing for men in general.
Yes, whimsy.
Whimsy.
Wonder, joy, laughter. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for being here.
This has been a gas.
What
Thank you so
a
much.
blast, and what a bust.
Everett, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram while it's still with us at Hey Everett.
Go on his Instagram and find out what shows he's doing. He's a hilarious stand-up.
Honey, where can they find us?
You can find us at Rebrand the Pod on Instagram. You can email us any suggestions for the show at rebrandthepodcast@gmail.com. And please join our Discord. If you were on a Discord, you got to see a stand-up show that Ashley also made an appearance on Friday. And we raised money for Black families displaced by the LA fires. So thanks to everybody for coming out for that.
Hell yeah.
Join our Discord at Rebrand the Pod.
Okay, that's it.
That's it.
I never know how to end these. Rebrand.